a seat. Nothing worse than standing room only. Boy, wouldn't that be a treat, huh? It's going to take me a while to get into my sort of psychopathic, schizophrenic, megalomaniacal head, but it shouldn't hopefully take too very long, because once I am in this uniform, you know when you're a kid, hey, by the way, you know, if you look at the palms of your hands, if they're red, that means you drink too much. But anyway, you know, when you're a kid, you have all these superhero fantasies like, I am Power Hand, you know, the most unlikely things. Or, you know, you have a great imagination, you get this leaf and you pretend it's a rocket ship and you like fly it everywhere, you know. Or, we're passing the Elm, you know, passing the Elm Galaxy, you know, or you take a crucifix off the wall, you take it to the supermarket, hi, I'm Jesus, the Sky Pilot, you know, get those oranges at 3 o'clock, you know, so, yeah, that's what The Wrong Hero is all about, damn it! And so that's why I call this The Return of the Master, because it is, in fact, the return of the Master. Now, I just want to say that if you're like most people, and who isn't, then you're probably just like everybody else, right? And this gets me to thinking, you know, everybody else always ruins it for a few assholes. It's true, you know? It happens. Every time you want to like set fire to a convent, there's always everybody else is always like ruining it. And anyway, I'm the Wrong Hero, and I am judge, jury, and executioner. And needless to say, with 3 jobs, I don't get much sleep. You know, judge in the morning, you know, bam, bam, I sentence you to death. What do you say, jury? We say, I, the foreman, say death. All right, executioner, do your duty. Okay, what the hood on?
Who hired you?
Who hired me? Oh, well, you see, this is a self-imposed duty. Like most great men, I have decided to take this terrible burden. Oh, Father, take this from me. If you tried for 3 years, seems like 30. Oh, yeah. Anyway, some people say I've got my grandfather's smile. And that's because I'm wearing his dentures. But he won't mind, you know, he's been on soft food for the last 5 years, so he doesn't really care. Anyway, on the way over here, I was thinking, everything is coming my way. That's because I was driving on the wrong side of the Mass Pike. It's like Einstein was in the passenger seat. Oh, very interesting. My theory of relativity is validated. And it's really great. Anyway, I'm the Wrong Hero. I go by many names, however. Some call me Hugo Boss, and some call me Mr. Man, and some people call me Hungry Johnson. But perhaps my favorite of my pseudonyms is O.J. King. But you can call me the Wrong Hero. I am the Shaman of Class Animus, and I am the avatar of the moron zeitgeist. But once again, just call me the Wrong Hero, the greatest and most talented satirist of my generation when I'm good, and a really lousy performance artist when I suck. Anyway, I'm a non-creative artist, so say anything and I'll figure out a way to disagree with you. This is the only time you're going to get to participate in this rant, so say anything. What?
The Wrong Hero is maybe a little too full of himself.
Lies, all lies, and I will crush them! Little puny ant-men! They are fine! Okay, that wasn't bad. And now an important announcement. The annual meeting of the Society of Bitter Hermits and Outcasts will not be held today or any other day. You know, when I was growing up, I used to think, gee, what should I be when I grow up? I know. I'll be a hooker in Las Vegas. I do not choose to do my dance in this kind of context. But I figured, well, comedian's second best. Now, some people say, you know, the Wrong Hero is a crazy fool.
The Wrong Hero is a crazy fool.
To which I reply, meow. Anyway, on the way over here, I got stopped by a policeman, and I figured I'd play a nice little game with him that I like to play. It's called Nice Victim, Mean Victim. It's like you're going the wrong way on the Mass Pike, and you're doing 90 miles an hour in the breakdown lane. What's your story? Well, top of the morning to you, officer. Sure, and what's a police captain like you doing up pounding the beat. I'll tell you why I was going so fast. It's because I was pretending the accelerator was a policeman's head. And I was sucking on a cube of LSD and I wanted to get home before I melted. Officer Coffee and Donuts sitting and picking your ass at 4 in the morning. Sir? And he said, well, we'll let it go this time. See, it doesn't happen again. I should tell you a little more about myself. I am actually, in my secret identity, I am a journalist, which means that I wear these shoulder pads on my knees. And, you know, thinking of journalists and the like, come on in, have a seat. Set a spell, take your shoes off, take your feet off, you know, like, hey, all right, you know, it's okay with me. Johnny got his gun, take your arms and legs off, you know. And have a Metallica video made, and you know, just relax, cool it. Oh, hey, cool it, man. Yeah, they're always talking about Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper. When's the last time you ever saw a mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper or any other paper? You know, it's like, excuse me, can I have that picture of your dead baby so I can splash it in lurid 12-point type with a lurid headline on the front page of a Boston Herald? Oh, pardon me, you know. Anyway, I'd like to do a special piece, which I only do for my friends. Well, that's not strictly true. I'd do it for my enemies, too, if I had any, which I have plenty of, actually, so what's the point? Anyway, no.
What about you didn't rehearse that line?
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Sicilian proverb. Who will remove the stone from my shoe? You have said in the word no to Don Emilio Croce. Now you can no longer live. Love that, you know. It was like Mario Puzo. He had this like really shitty movie. They tried to make it sound like it had something to do with The Godfather, but it didn't. And that was the big tagline. You know, like, I will make him an offer he can't refuse, The Godfather. The Sicilian. You have said the word no to Don Emilio Croce. Now you can no longer live. This thing's called, yeah, I love movies and stuff. And I love to recombine things like Huckleberry Finnegan's Wake, Frankenstein Sinatra, REM Speedwagon. That's one I thought of on the way over here. And how would that go? Driver A, please go all the way. But this is The Wizard of Oz in 5 minutes. You know, The Wizard of Oz, it was on like 6 weeks ago, and for about the 40th time. It's like a yearly ritual. Sit the kids down at the television, you know. They're like about as intelligent as kittens at that age, and they're highly impressionable. So this is just the sort of thing you want them to see. Frightening witches, separation from their parents, you know, evil, ominous soldiers, and you know, all these sort of lurid scenarios, locked in a room. The hourglass is almost empty. And anyway, here it is. The Wizard of Oz in 5 minutes or less. Somewhere over there. Please don't let him take Toto away. There's a twister coming in. Hope she gets home in time, poor kid. Ding dong, the witches that we represent, the lollipop kids. You killed my sister. I'll get you for this. I'm afraid you've made a very bad enemy. She wants the ruby slippers, and she'll do anything to get them. I suggest you go to see the wizard by following the yellow brick road, which represents the gold standard, and seeing the wizard, who is actually William Jennings Bryan and represents populism, and the silver standard, as in his famous speech, The Cross of Gold, given at the 1896 Democratic National Convention. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow, if I only had a brain, a heart, the knife. Go away. The wizard is very busy. But here is my only hope of getting back to Oz. I am the great and powerful Oz. I'm Dorothy, the small and meek. Silence! Don't come back until you bring me the broom of the Wicked Witch of the West. But now you have to kill her. Silence! Commercial. Oxidol was made just for you. Look, it's the witch, and she's writing something. Surrender, Dorothy. Hey, I thought you didn't have a brain. How do you know how to spell? Oh, forget it. Puppies, puppies, sleep, sleep. Apparently they haven't heard of the Harrison Narcotics Act of 1938 up in Oz, you know. So, go, my flying monkeys, and don't return until you bring me the girl. Run, Toto, run. Annie-O, Dorothy, Dorothy, Annie-O. I'll give you Annie-O, my pretty. Oh, Rio, Zola, Hurry, Tin Witchman, the hourglass is almost up. What hourglass are you talking about? I don't know. How's my little fire, Scarecrow? Ah, melting. You killed her. I didn't mean to. Well, hooray for Dorothy. The Wicked Witch is dead. You're a bad man. No, I'm a good man, just a bad wizard. Now the Witchman's got his heart and the Lion's got his courage, I will put the Scarecrow to rule in my stead. Obey him as you would me. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. Scarecrow, I think I'll miss you most of all. Meow. Woof, woof. Toto, come back. No, I'll never get back home. The answer to getting back home was within your grasp the whole time. You mean you put me through hell for nothing? Just tap the ruby slippers 3 times and say, there's no place like home. There's no place like... Wow, what a crazy dream. You were there, and you and Professor Marvel, you were there too. Yes, I guess there really is no place like home. Down, 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 down. So, thank you. That was my incredibly self-conscious tour de force. And in my usual postmodernist way, not only do I tell you what I'm going to do, and then tell you that I've done it, but then I also do it as well. Anyway, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what I believe. I believe that this here iced tea really stinks. It's Poland spring. I believe that I could go somewhere with that.
Perpetuating ethnic stereotypes, wrong hero?
It's okay if you're Polish yourself.
That's right, George Carlin said, you can knock your own kind.
That's right, your own miserable kind. Munchkins. I believe that the moon is a giant ovary, and that's why we shoot rockets at it. And I also believe that the moon is capitalism. It's big, it's white, it sits there and does nothing. And it has a lot of pull. And the sun is socialism. It's big, it's red, and sooner or later, everybody gets burned. You ever notice, I'm getting this Jay Leno thing going here. You ever notice that my voice goes up about an octave every time I try to go into my jokes? You ever notice? Working on those automobiles gave me a hernia, and you can't. They used to call me Ratchet Jaw in 6th grade. And you ever notice how crazy people, drug users, and geniuses are fascinated by American Indians? And you ever consider that perhaps God loves right-wing Republicans and Christians and crazy people the most because God is all they ever talk about? Just an observation. Just an observation. Well, I don't believe in free love. I believe in paying for it. Because my passion is worth more to me than one fleeting moment of virginity. Here's another thing that I'm gonna. You ever notice? They should have Jay Leno should have a parrot, you know, going. You ever notice pieces of meat, probably like cracker. You ever notice? You ever notice? You ever notice that when you get to be a certain age, when people call you sir, what they really mean is fatso. You know, it's like, can I have a Subway token, please? Here you go, sir. It's, and, you know, fatso, yes, fatso. You can do this anywhere, you know. Yes, fatso, to fatso with love. Do, 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 do. Did you see the follow-up to Sir with Love? Boy, was it lame, so I won't even get into it. I believe that politics is sports for people who are too fat to run. I believe that I can start drinking anytime I want to. And you know, even notice how people say that their dog is their best friend, and I'm like, yeah, my dog's my best friend. Sure, all my best friends fuck in the streets. All my best friends piss in the corner. All my best friends kill chickens. All my best friends huck kibbles and bits onto the linoleum. And all my best friends beg for treats with their genitalia exposed. You know, yeah, dog's my best friend, all right. You ever notice that, that a socialist is just a hobo with a PhD? can see a thing without my glasses. Whoa. Oh, it's alive! Oh. I'm only alive when the television's on. They say that brevity is the soul of... No, that's too long. How about brevity is the... Brevity is the... That's good. I believe that every time it rains when the sun is shining, a policeman is beating his wife. I believe that masturbation is the poor man's Nintendo. I believe that you are entitled to my opinion. I believe that the government should outlaw me, so I can be sold for $20 a gram outside housing projects. I don't believe in trying to keep up with the Joneses. I'm running away from the Joneses because I trashed their lawn. I believe that nothing is more fun than a barrel of monkeys, except maybe one little monkey in a barrel, fluttering its eyelashes at me, giving me that special little smile and saying, "Mr. Man, you number 10!" About a year and a half ago, up at McGill University in Canada, a fellow named Dr. Cameron, on behalf of the CIA, was...
He didn't have a first name?
I don't know what the hell his first name was. Dr. Cameron. Isn't that good enough for you? No.
First name was Doctor?
Stinky, okay? On behalf of the CIA, he reprogrammed unsuspecting citizens with drugs, sleep deprivation, and incessant messages. And you know, that sounds an awful lot like a typical undergraduate education to me. You know, what's so bad about this? People pay for this, you know. I paid, like, you know, I dropped $100,000 on college. I can't even find a fucking job. And it's like, college, what do you learn in college? You learn how to drink cappuccino and vodka mixed together without puking. And you learn how to eat powdered iced tea straight out of the foil packet. And you learn how to say in 500 words what was never worth saying to begin with. So like, be it resolved that icebergs are a threat to the merchant marine. You know, I will draw upon many authorities, including Plato and Aristotle, and also Felix the cat, and Chumley from the Tennessee Tuxedo Show. Icebergs are a threat to the merchant marine. This is Dr. Whoopi. He's the smartest man in the world, also the loneliest man in the world, because he hangs out with a penguin and a walrus and gets his kicks that way.
Phineas J. Whoopi, you're the greatest.
Yeah. They should have teamed up with that kid in the time-traveling dog on the Bullwinkle show.
Sherman.
There we go. Sherman.
Anybody.
There we go.
Mr.
You know,
Peanut.
Sherman is just an embryonic Bill Gates when you really think about it. Okay? And little Pasquale from Rose's Rose is just an embryonic Frank Sinatra from Gomer Pyle.
Don't mention that comic.
It is pretty bad. But what about the Family Circus? She's got a new hairdo. You know, just once in the Family Circus, I'd like to see little Dolly say something like, "I just threw Jesus down the toilet." You know, but no, I've never seen anything like that. Spooky, supernatural grandparents. Did you see the Sunday one? It's like, yay, school's out, we can play. And their guardian angels are following them en masse going, "Our work's just begun." Whoa, that's a butt costume!
Bill Keane.
Yeah, you can see old guys in bars. Did you see that? Anyway, in college, what do you learn? You learn how to say, "I know exactly what you mean," instead of, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about." You know, and the thing is, $100,000 for this. I'll teach you that in 20 seconds. Give me the $100,000. You know? That's what I want. I went for a job interview. And it's tough, you know. If you don't memorize the names of the hardware and the software, they grill you. And it's like, what hardware are you using? Well, and you're like, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. IBM, yeah, that's what I'm using, yeah. What software are you using? I just stick my hand in a little do hole. And anyway, we got job, and that means I can fuck things up at the speed of light, you know. As opposed to taking 2 or 3 days. Whoops, just wiped out the entire budget. I don't know, the job search isn't going so well. Maybe it's my resume. And it's like, maybe I should work on it a little, because right now it says something like, this is my resume. Mine, do you hear me? Mine. Get your greasy hands off it, you filthy little man. Or the cover letter, you know, I could use some work too. I tend to say the same thing, like, Dear Personnel Director, I want a job. If you do not call me to set up a personal interview, I'm going to come over there and make you suck my drug-laced nipples, earth filth. Signed, sincerely, with socialist greetings, the wrong hero. The job interviews are the worst, because, you know, they have this little book that they read out of, and then they ask the same damn questions that are impossible to answer. Like, if you answer them exactly right, oh, he's slick, he must have read the book, we don't want him. We want somebody who's honest and direct. But if you're too honest and direct, oh, I could give so many examples of when my stupid big mouth just got me into so much hot water. We got this publishing job for you. How would you like to work for Rhode Island Gourmet magazine? That reminds me of a funny story. You know, in the Elvis movie Spin Out, the policeman friend of the band's drummer refers to gourmet cooking. So, yeah, this actually happened too. It's even funnier, huh? Yeah, that's right, laugh at my discomfiture. How would you handle a difficult customer? Well, I think I'd be firm and direct, like my dick. Difficult customer. I got the shit you want it or don't you? Come on, I ain't got all day. Snap it up, snap it up. All right, bozo, you're out of here. Sayonara, sucker. See you in Rio. It's like, have you ever been arrested? Yes, by my great talent. Do you have any experience? Yeah, Jimi Hendrix experience. What's your biggest weakness? Drugs. You got any? I hear this is a drug-free workplace. When did the free drugs start? Name 2 of your former boss's biggest weak points. Oh, that's easy. Throat and kneecap. Why have you been out of work so long? No, I don't know. Ask my probation officer. What's your biggest flaw? I tend to be lazy. Well, at least you're honest about it. No, I lied about that too. You have any questions for us? You're like, you know, yes, I've been sitting here seriously attending to every word, oh golden master. I've been writing down every word you said. Every single precious syllable that drops from your fat, fatuous, drooling, toothless, empty-headed skull, I despise. Yeah, let's see. Questions. Yeah, when can I start whipping the peasants? Mr. Big Whip. And how long do I have to work here before I can claim a disability and go on unemployment? That's what I really want to know. Well, your resume is very impressive. Not that we could comprehend it, but do you have any special skills? Yeah, I piss like a racehorse. I can suck a tennis ball through a garden hose. And when I lift my arm, my golden retriever drops dead at 15 paces. Want a demonstration? No, I don't think so. Oh, tell me something. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's a good question. I'm going to pretend like I'm thinking about that and don't have a ready-made answer for a question that has been asked at least a dozen times in the past year. Where do I see myself in 5 years? I see me in a stretch limo, Al Cowling's at the wheel. My fists dripping with fuck you money, drinking Cavoursier from a Dixie cup, a foxy little whore on either arm. And I see you standing on a street corner, your filthy coat covered with snot and vomit, handing out watchtowers to peace officers, shaking your fist at me and calling me a filthy monkey as I leave you in a cloud of my diesel dust. And they're like, well, we were considering you for an entry-level position, but we think you have what it takes to be middle management. Truly, it has been said, it's the quiet ones who do all the work. And if only we could get him to do it for nothing, we'd all have it made, now wouldn't we? Well, how about politics? Is this a controversial subject? You notice I've steered clear of any references to God. You know, the old folks say, don't talk about God or politics or religion or in mixed company. And it's like, why the hell not? You know, what is this, the Flintstones era? What the fuck, man? Is it like some Cossack gonna come to the door? All right, I got my note ready. I hear you were bad-mouthing Stalin. You know? No, we like Stalin. Well, then you're under arrest for not loving him. He loved Big Brother. He loved Big Brother. Well, I believe that, you know, there's a diametrically, everybody says, why bother voting? You know, whoever you vote for, it's all the same. But no, there's a big difference between liberals and conservatives. Liberals fuck things up, and conservatives just ignore them, you know. It's like, starving kids? Whereas with the liberals, it's more like, oh, we'll give them some government cheese, yeah. That's good. They don't have any teeth. We can hire unemployed people to chew it down for them. Conservatives are pro-life when it comes to fetuses, and liberals are pro-life when it comes to death row convicts. You know, I don't know, who's the warm and fuzzy group here? Well, oh, little fetus. Fetus, do your stuff. Fetus, don't fail me now.
Step and touch it.
That's right. What do you call a skinny Republican?
A Democrat.
A survivalist. What do you call when a Republican gets fat? Protective coloration. You know, just once I'd like to see Bill Clinton on television saying something like, it would have to be on television, not one of his weekly interminable radio addresses. And now, I'd like to discuss the fact that icebergs are a threat to the merchant marine. What are we going to do? We can sell those icebergs to Japan, use it to pay off our staggering deficit, which threatens the inheritance sea of our children, and our children's children, and our children's 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 children. To quote the title of an old Moody Blues song. No, but just once I'd like to see him on television, going something like, and I promise that we will give guaranteed health coverage to every, and he rips his mask off and he's sugar bears. Come on, Randy Goodwitch. How about some of that sugar Chris? Can't get enough of that sugar. You know, Sugar Bear is just the reincarnation of Sammy Davis Jr. When you think, can't get another. Whoa, okay, man, okay. And I like stuff like that. Roseanne and the Honeymooners. You know, these reincarnations. Fran Drescher on The Nanny and Lucille Ball. The politics of abject self-humiliation. But well, you know, there's all these differences between liberals and conservatives. Conservatives jeer, and liberals nitpick. Conservatives are like lizard brain. You know, me want food, me want shelter, mine. You know, me sun myself on rock, Tucson, Arizona, mine. Whereas liberals are like mammal brain override. Well, we believe in the right of every citizen of the United States to enjoy equal rights, even though their behavior, which is degenerate and disgusting, makes us sick. Liberals lie and frown. Conservatives smile and kill. So there's the big difference. And you know, all these religious fundamentalists, the Christian coalition, they're like, well, let's have a moment of silence in public schools in lieu of school prayer. Okay, now we can have a moment of noise in Bible schools. Yippee! I'd like to see that. I would. You know, this presidential election reminds me of, the movie it reminds me of? The Fugitive. Bill Clinton running away from a scandal that he's not guilty of, the Whitewater. And the real villain is the one-armed man, Vado. You know, I didn't take the money from Whitewater. I don't care. You know, it's like, whoa. So, but nobody, of course, has had the bad taste to point this out except me. which is, great. It's great being marginal because you can say anything you damn well please. Can you imagine going on Star Search with this? Bob Dole, the one-armed man. Hey, Goodby, let me use your bad arm for a hammer. We'll nail it to them Democrats.
John Silver can play Bob Dole.
There we go. Yeah, or the interlocking.
He'll be vice president, so okay.
Or both Happy Rockefeller and Betty Ford had mastectomies, and you just interlock them. Like, oh, it's a puzzle. Southerners, man. Southerners are just too much. And Southerners are pretty much running this country. In 1865, they lost the Civil War, as Gilbert Sheldon so aptly put it. And by 1963, they were running the country again. And it's like, I wish I was annoying the cotton. And it's like, cotton comes to Harlem now. How about that? What are you going to do about that? Well, you ever notice how, just to digress, I never felt so good as the day when these black people who were at my work, I was leaving work for the day, they said, hey, take it easy, bruh. It's like, whoa, I'm a bruh. It's like, yeehaw, man, all right, pump it up, black Ungawa, black power, I said it, I meant it, I could easily be a black guy. It would just come so natural to me. I love it, I could walk the walk, like, hey, you foxy little whores, come on over here. Like, hey, what's your name, Betty? Well, that's what I'm going to call you. Whoa, Mr. Slick, Well, I'm Italian, I'm Mediterranean people, they're all the same, there's not a dime's worth of difference between your average Greek and your average Arab. Well, actually, I think both of them would beg to differ, but anyway, and then I was in Purity today, as I was pondering this very thing. He's like, what you want to go talk to me like that, ma? Which I guess is short for motherfucker, Like, bruh and ma. You're on their good side, the good angel, bruh. The bad angel, ma. Bruh, ma. Pretty cool, man. But Southerners, black folk act the way they do because they're basically transplanted Southerners. Say what you will. And Southerners, when you go down the South, they're so incredibly hospitable because, who in the hell would visit the South? Who in their right mind would visit the South if they didn't have to?
Exactly.
Chiggers, ticks, brown recluse spiders, black widows, what have you. And the thing, but they're really nice. So they're like Arabs. They're really hospitable because you're visiting the godforsaken semi-arid desert of a land. And they were like, oh, Effendi, come to my tent. I will fold up my tents and steal away into the night for you. Well, you get on their bad side, that's it, forget it. When Southerners get mad at you, they talk like they're taking a shit. You ever notice that? It's like, hey, how you doing? How y'all doing? What's that? You're a Yankee? What y'all want to come around here for anyway? Boy, I don't appreciate you folk coming down here and telling us what to do. And when I get this thing out of here, I'm going to get you. You practically hear deliverance. And, oh, make you squeal like a pig. I'm from Pittsburgh. And the last big thing that happened in Pittsburgh, besides the first Kennedy-Nixon debate in 1947 in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, where they were debating the Taft-Hartley bill. Well, before that, that was a big highlight, Two congressmen who nobody knows, who later became presidential rivals. Prior to that was the Whiskey Rebellion was the last really big thing that happened in Pittsburgh. And what was that, 1792? And it's like, but I'm thinking, hey, if I ever got involved with a rebellion, I'd want it to be a whiskey rebellion. Can you see their political platform? And their slogan? What are you people rebelling against anyway? Bob Dole, before he quit the Senate, he wanted to rescind that 3.4 cent per gallon gas tank tax. Like, what a magnanimous move! It's like, yeah, I'm gonna take that 3.4 cents and move down to Mexico and live like a fucking king on that fucking money. I'm gonna be snorting coke off a prostitute's back. Me, Joe Camel, the NRA, Mother Teresa, we're gonna tear that shit apart. There's an old saying, apropos of virtually nothing, that a hungry monkey will not dance, and a scalded cat will run away from cold milk. And I'm thinking, who's in charge around here? What kind of nightmare world this is anyway? You know, yeah. I got 4 on the floor. My knuckles scrape the ground when I walk. There's another old saying which goes something like, I did not eat, said the sparrow, therefore the parrot shall not eat. And the parrot said, you know, I really don't appreciate that talking sparrow horning in on my act. You know what I mean?
Everybody wants to get in on the act. Quack! Pieces of meat. Hooray for General MacArthur!
Yeah, parrots, you know, they don't tend to be the best conversationalists when it comes right down to it. But you could probably, if you could just train a parrot, you could probably take the, you know, your girlfriend could probably just have a parrot, you know. Do you love me?
Quack! Yes!
You know, will you ever leave me?
Quack! No!
She's like, do you really love me?
Quack! I love you!
You know, and just a thought. You know, when the parrot says Polly want a cracker, what Polly really needs is not a cracker. What Polly needs is a lesson in remedial grammar. That's what I think. Just one man's opinion. Well, you know, I don't drink coffee anymore because I'm almost 40 years old and I already have a bitter taste in my mouth first thing in the morning, you know. But gourmet coffee, you know, people who drink gourmet coffee are basically just people who used to use drugs and they miss all the paraphernalia. So, like, get that little thing, that sounds just like a crack pipe being lit. You know, and you can see the buzz it gives, and they're really into. But yeah, you gotta be careful about people who use drugs. People on drugs notice everything. So you know, you can't like, oh wow, man, nice vine. It glitters. You know, the colors. There's other things I've noticed too, generally while on drugs. Any government warning can be a thrash song. Like, cross at the green, not in between, hey! You know, or,
Surgeon General's warning. Cigarette smoking may be hazardous to your health. Hey! Please extinguish all smoking materials while boarding the passenger.
you know, and, where do they get the smoking materials? Like, yeah, in fact, you can jazz up any boring old mediocre song by sticking in the word hey. It's like, when the red, red robin goes blah, 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 blah.
Hey!
Well, I'd like to tell you, talk a little bit about some of my sponsors. The penis, strong enough for a man, but made for a woman. But men like it too. And recombinant DNA, and their motto is, we bring things to life. And Snapple, the best stuff on earth.
Corn syrup and water, the best stuff on earth.
And everybody needs a little KFC, as you well know. Woman in truck, you know, woman in car, taking her kids around town. Big truck almost smashes them. Well, what are you gonna do? I think I'll console myself with some greasy chicken. Bring the chicken home. I don't want that chicken. It's fried. I want baked. You know, it's like, fuck you, Pol Pot, Hiroshima, Auschwitz, and fried chicken. Hello. Oh, that little brat, I like to take her and like stick her in one of those fucking rendering vats and there, how do you like being fried, you little...
Oh my God.
Well, I'm sorry. And in the, you know, and Tums. And, oh, her eyes glister as she sees the cylinder being thrust at her face. You know, it's like, oh, it's got calcium. That's something my body needs anyway. You know, come on already. And you know, I know this is sexual because Tums, spelled backwards, is smut. Okay? It's smut. The Wrong Hero is also brought to you by the fine line of blubber products. Blubber Light, fat-free blubber. Blubber Clear, Country Time blubber. Teenage Mutant Ninja blubber. And, of course, I can't believe it's not blubber. And you know, man, I'll tell you, who's going to take over the world? Is it going to be Steven Spielberg and DreamWorks or Walt Disney? This is the big thing, not capitalism and communism, not the rich and the poor. It's Disney versus Spielberg, you know. Disney's got a big head start. And they've been like indoctrinating people for over 50 years. Disneyland, Disney World, a magical place. Do you think I'll actually get to meet Goofy? What will I say to the Great One? Psst, Goofy, you want some hash? Oh, never mind, I think you already had enough. Anyway,
Too bad those kids didn't get away with their plan.
What plan?
These kids in the paper the other day, that it was alleged that they planned to go to Walt Disney World, accost and steal the costumes from some of the characters, and then go around shooting black people while dressed in the this Mickey and Goofy.
Hey, all I can say to that is Charlie Manson was a fucking piker. You know? These guys, they got the mother load. Well, they got caught, you know. They brag in a low, sleazy dive to some people. You know? Yeah, we're going to take off the mixer. You know, we're going to off Snow White. Helter Skelter, man. And like, we're going to give Mickey Mouse steroids. You know? Hey, thanks for the steroids, fellas.
I'm with you. Let's go. Let's tear this joint apart.
They could get the oppressed Disney workers, who all look like bad DNA experiments gone awry, and take over the world. You can just see it. They'd be on this like flying disc, like the Fantastic Four used to have. All right, Mickey, we're over New York. Drop the big one. You know, it's like it's the cute bomb. Oh, that bomb makes me melt. You know, I'm gonna give them all my clothing. Ah, yes. Well. You know, this is futile, though, to talk about Disney taking over the world. They already have. You know what Mickey Mouse really stands for? Talk about your conspiracy theories. What it stands for is MIC, Military Industrial Complex, KEY, Keynesian Economic Yoke, MOUSE, more of the United States engulfment, you know? So, forget it. You know, there's an old saying that an apple a day keeps the doctor away. I need to know what keeps the policeman away. An onion? A pension? I don't know.
Garlic.
Garlic, that's it. Back. So, as the American philosophers Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young so eloquently put it, if you can't be with the one you love, brother, or bruh, love the one you're with. Which is really good advice, especially if you're in a prison. You just see that, you know, Richard Speck and Charlie Manson. If you can't be with the one you love, brother, love the one you with. Well, there's one nice thing about being in prison. At least your parents always know where you are. It's 11 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? Yeah, it's in fucking Attica, you know. Well, maybe the reason I'm the way I am is because of my father. You know, my dad was basically a meat and potatoes man. His arms were made of French fries, and his legs were made of steak, and I'm like, what kind of nightmare world is this you've brought me into? I'm melting. I had to break up with my girlfriend, but I let her down easy. I said to her, baby, every time I make love to you, I see God. And he told me to stop going out with you, so bye-bye. Like later, sassy. Actually, you know, my dad was kind of like a hippie. He used to say stuff like, son, I'm going to teach you a lesson I'll never remember. I'm gonna roll by them, because like all my friends from college and high school, they're all having kids and having families and making like more than $9,000 a year, and you know, bragging about their children, how smart they are, how talented. My little girl's practically in the same league with Yo-Yo Ma. Well, my little penis is practically a yo-yo. No, it's like, don't brag about their kids. What do I have to brag about? Well, I left some ejaculate on a handkerchief last night. and it smelled like a petunia. No, it just doesn't make it somehow. So, oh, that's a little bit risky, isn't it? I did that at Northeastern College, and it just didn't go over. Like, ew! You know, the sorority girls. It's bad timing. I'm having problems with my teenage son, and the hell of it is he hasn't even been born yet. So I'm wondering, how do I get back at him? Because you know he's going to want to kill me and marry his mother and run off and reenact Oedipus Rex, and you just know it. And, you know, that's the funny thing about fathers and sons. Like, stupid old dad! you say it, and then your son says it, and it just goes on and on. There's an old saying that the reason why children get along so well with their grandparents is they all have a common enemy. Anyway, I'm thinking, well, what am I going to get back on my teenage son? Let's see, I could give him a funny name. Something like Yasser, or Strong, Cosmo, Newt, Jeswold, Silly Man, Acidophilus, Adolf, Rico, Suave, Captain Crunch, or Frankenberrier.
Paul Putt.
I could call him Cracklin' Oat Bran. That'd be cool. I know a man who had the weight of the world on his shoulders, and you know what? His head was completely crushed. You know, if you get your information from talking to the man in the street, then pretty soon you will both be flattened by large automobiles. I know a man who was born under a lucky star, and he felt especially lucky when they finally pried it off of him. Truly, it has been said that you can't have everything. After all, where would you store it? It has also been said that he who dies with the best Toyotas wins. Man is perhaps the only animal who manufactures drugs for medicinal purposes. Man is perhaps the only animal who cries, who laughs, who thinks, who dreams. But most of all, and one thing we can say for certain, is that man is the only animal who compiles these inane lists of what man is the only animal to do. Well, maybe I'll go mainstream. I thought I'd get in good with the master. So I've been compiling a little list of advice for the master.
Who's the master?
You know who the master is. It is he whose name shall not be mentioned. So, this goes out to the master. Make people watch television because television is chewing tobacco for the eyes. Mindless propaganda? You're soaking in it! Relax. It's socially acceptable commodity fetishism. Hire veterans and people with children because they're used to being ordered around. More advice for the master. Divide racial groups by class and divide class groups by ethnicity. And encourage people to form selfish and weak special interest groups so that they might be marginalized even further and present even less of a threat to the master. Keep intellectuals distracted by abstruse theories and keep the masses distracted by lurid scandals.
This sounds like Machiavellian.
Oh, cool, man. All right. Prince Machiavelli.
Yeah.
Kind of perfume. By making money the measure of a man, you can marginalize those with egalitarian ideas, which would inconvenience you. More advice for the master. Make your eunuchs fat and starve those who dwell too far outside the gates. Reward winners and punish losers. It isn't fair, but it's fun to watch. And most of all, master, refer to philosophers and men of wisdom as conspiracy theorists. You can see that with a hilarious set of comedic jests and japes like this, I will never be on Star Search. I can just see Ed McMillan. Oh, I really like that, especially the part about rewarding the eunuchs. And now, this word 65 and afraid you can't get any insurance? Well, talk to my friend Art Linkletter. He'll have you sell your valuable heirlooms for pennies on the dollar so you can buy a parking lounger. There's something, someday they're just going to combine every one of the most loathsome celebrities who ever lived into one super loathsome celebrity. The man with Michael Fox's voice, Frank Sinatra's compassionate temperament, Bob Hope's sense of humor, and, Frankenstein Sinatra. It was like, if anything happened to me on the way to Lebanon, I had my foot blown off. So, it'd be really cool, And then they'll be able to do it. They probably already can with computer morphing and whatnot, recombining loathsome celebrities. And, Oprah Winfrey combined with Ricky Lake, why did you kill your mother and then become a prostitute in Las Vegas? Well, Oprah Ricky, is because she said I was fat. I've had that problem too. I've smoked that drug. I've been fat. I've done this, I've done that. I was a fat girl in a John Waters movie, and now I made the big move and became the 7-year fiance of some fellow named Stedman, and nobody knows a thing about it. Successful businessman. World-renowned businessman. Stedman Graham, whatever the hell his name is. Why don't you just marry the guy already, huh? Get out of our faces. I'm sick of her.
I liked her better when she was fat.
Yeah, really.
It's mispronounced. Actually, it's Studman.
Oh, that's right, yeah, that's right. Since her stunt double eats all the food, she experiences it vicariously via computer-generated taste buds. That's what the future's going to be like, We're going to have teenage clones who take all the drugs and all the risks and indulge in all of the wild behavior. And it'll be really something, the future world. We're approaching the millennium, In case you haven't figured it out yet. When will the 21st century begin?
2001.
Whoa, you're smart. Now, ain't you smart? Yeah, well, there's two schools of thought about that. But, yeah, strictly speaking, you know who's really going to make a bundle come the year 2000? Prince. You're going to hear it everywhere. Tonight we're going to party like it's 1999. Because, he knew back in 1983, he wasn't going to be around for 16 years. He was going to need some residuals work. It's perfect, Like Paul McCartney wrote a song called 1985 in 1974. David Bowie wrote 1984 in, 1973. And, these people aren't stupid. And, of course, Zager and Evans win the real championship with
the year
in the year 25.
Or 25.
What an incredibly trite concept. In the year 2 digits followed by 2 identical digits. Everything's going to be so awful, and we're going to have to do something about it. But maybe we'll get Sergeant Barry Sadler and the guy that does evil obstruction, Barry McGuire, to do something about it for us.
Zager had disco tunes.
He did.
On his own, without Evans. Michael Zager Band.
In the year. Yeah, I bet you was tempted to have these guys ever done another song that anybody's ever heard of? And for that matter, are you familiar with In the Year 2525? Or are you still grooving to the rapper? I'm the rapper. That adorable cowbell. Well, I would just like to say, for the next 50 minutes of my presentation,
What time is it?
probably about
He's
quarter
almost
to
over.
11.
Almost over.
He's almost over. What a heartening. Okay, yeah, I'm going to skip some of this because you're not really going to remember that. I'm the wrong hero, and I am apathetically engaged, frivolously serious, positively negative, altruistically misanthropic, cynically utilitarian, sympathetically callous, intently oblivious, omnisciently ignorant, thoughtlessly philosophical, an ascetic glutton, a proletarian nobleman. I believe in sacrificial hedonism, Dionysian stoicism, nihilistic animism, materialistic Taoism. I'm a fighting Quaker, a fucking monk. I was the stupidest genius at Harvard. I am oxymoronically non-contradictory. I'm an active placebo. I'm a firm believer of the trite tour de force. And this is my most unforgettable performance, but after I leave this stage, you won't remember a single word I said. And I want to tell you something. I've seen the Hootie Owl, and I've stayed in fancy hotels. And I'll tell you something more. I've been from Pie Town, Arizona to Fiddlefuck, Arkansas. I've been from Truth or Consequences, New Mexico to West Hill, Missouri. I've been from Diddy Wah Diddy, South Carolina to poking the eye with a sharp stick, West Virginia. I've been from Chumley, Ohio to Tennessee. And everywhere west of Yonkers and east of Riverside, California is hazardous waste, smoldering landfills, and frontier justice where filthy, ornery, lice-infested hicks watch the grain elevator go up and down and see the face of Jesus in the side of a soybean oil tank and twiddle their non-opposable thumbs all the livelong day. And I'll tell you something more about the great Midwest. They don't have Barsamians or Pregnant Circus or even Stop and Shop. At 18 hours a day, you can hear the radio ad from the one supermarket in town. Filthy Midget Mart. Right across the street from Purity Supreme, or where the Purity Supreme used to be before they burned it down and made it into a crack house. Here at Filthy Midget Mart, when you walk in the door, the smell of mildew and freezer burn means we don't clean our store and we pass the extra savings on to you. Here at Filthy Midget Mart. Now you walk into our produce section. Are those pineapples or are those real life hand grenades? You never know it. Filthy. But don't come to our store if you want milk or bread or eggs or other sissy stuff. But we got the largest selection of Because here at Filthy Midget Mart, we got the largest selection of snuff, chewing tobacco, and prosthetic jaws on the tri-state area. That's right, here at Filthy Midget Mart, our poultry is so fresh it's still walking around, if you consider pigeons and crows to be poultry. Tuesday's bargain day in our produce department because at Filthy Midget Mart, our motto is, we break for roadkill. Now, here at Filthy Midget Mart, we don't have the truck with powder puffs or petunias or perfuming water, but we're the place to be if you want 500 pounds of dynamite, a caged gorilla, or a monkey's paw clutching a jewel. That's right, we're the place here at Filthy Midget Mart. Come to our 4th of July cookout and dwarf tossing contest. Watch us throw a real shrimp on the Barbie. Here at Filthy Midget Mart. Now, we don't ask you at the end of the day, after you've done your shopping, if you want paper or plastic. No, we just throw the shit at your head. That's why we got the fastest checkout lines in the business here at Filthy Midget Mart. And you go to these small towns and you go to a small town bar. These people are like fucking apes. They're like a tribe of apes. I don't know how else to put it. They're like incredibly, like, you know, they got this in-group going here. They don't like strangers, but let's put it that way. It's like, and there's always one guy who's got to start trouble. I was in World War II. I was a veteran. I left my big toe down, you know. Like, okay, Bob, sure, let me buy you a drink. You know, Sonny, I've been watching you, and I've been wondering, who put the hair up your ass? Who died and left you king? You must think you're the man with the fuzzy nuts. You must think your shit is made of chocolate ice cream. When's the next time asked, Mr. God? You mind if I ask you a question? Who put the firecracker in your pantaloons? What's got your undies in a bundle? What's eating you, hostile stranger? Who do you think you are around here, King Farouk? Why, you no be my friend, S.A. You may think you're boss hog, but around here you're just Joe Shit the Rag Man. And you can put that in your pipe and smoke it, or else I'll take you outside and dust your britches for you, little man. I'll put some kitty booty on your ass. I'll tell you. Well, before I go, I'd like to do one little thing, which I think Steve liked once upon a time. It's called Situationist Nursery Rhymes. Yeah, you'll love this. It's
No, I laughed before you told the joke. I just laughed at the set last time.
Oh, okay. You didn't like the jokes.
Well,
Well,
you can go ahead and try it again.
oh, thanks. Maybe you'll get them this time. Second time around. This little piggy went to the market in spite of the massive
Hey,
dislocation.
wait, hold on. Hold on with the situation joke.
Okay, great. Hold on with the situation. Hey, it's a situationist comedy, man.
I'm gonna call Steven, I guess, 'cause Steven.
Oh, good, because Steve is like into that kind of thing, you know? Come on in, Steve. All right, ding dong bell.
Pussy's in the well. My brother almost drowned.
I heard that on an old race record in the 40s. Come on in, sit down. We're doing
He can't stay. He's in the middle.
Situationist nursery rhymes. This little piggy went to the market in spite of the massive dislocations caused by the breakdown of the spectacular commodity economy. This little piggy stayed home, thereby demonstrating by his refusal to participate in the corrupt system the vigor of his struggle for autonomy. This little piggy had roast beef and was thereby culpable in depriving the third world of badly needed grain. This little piggy had none, finally breaking once and for all the chain of karmic retribution. And this little piggy cried wee, wee, wee all the way home, demonstrating in so doing his admirable spirit of communal solidarity by refusing to be passionate about his own alienation.
That was pretty good, Brent.
And now, Old King Cole.
They lifted out of society in the spectacle.
Old King Cole was ruthless in his oblivious exploitation of his objectified and thoroughly pacified salaried robots, who brought him his pipe bowl and fiddlers 3, stupefying palliatives which made the otherwise intolerable boredom of his hegemonic regime palatable. And last,
Is that pronounced hegemonic or hegemonic?
hegemonic, I don't know, I think it's hegemonic, I think you're right. And finally, Little Jack Horner. Little Jack Horner sat in the corner.
Harvard grad gets corrected. Ooh.
Ooh. Ooh-ah. As Al Pacino so prosaically put it. Little Jack Horner sat in a corner eating his Christmas pie. He put in his thumb and pulled out a plum and said, "My selection of this plum, which clarifies my intent to make an ideological statement, symbolizes what Freud would call a food dirtying motif and represents the expropriative greed of a state of arrested development stemming from a childhood burdened by affective deprivation due to the depredations of a ruthlessly exploitative, objectifying, mercantilist society which rules and fragments the nuclear family by means of the iron law of wages." As you can see, sometimes I just go a little bit overboard with this intellectual stuff. Like, you know, I'm two men, really. I'm a vulgarian, and yet I'm an incredibly witty and erudite guy. One Halloween I went as the refutation of Aristotelian logic. Nobody got it. The other time, I was living in the housing projects, which were like 99% black, and I decided to reenact the myth of Prometheus by dressing up for Halloween as Superman. You know, and it's like, yo, you know, and it's like, but they were laughing so hard that they couldn't beat me up too severely as I attempted feebly, without tearing my costume, to climb over a fence. Whoa, where's your powers now, Superman? Boom! You know, it's like black kryptonite. You know, so, anyway. With a childhood like that, how could I help but have turned out the way I have? Anyway, I thank you all very much for your patience and kindness and attention, and I think that's about it for me. I don't know. Unless we
went out with a bang, Frank.
Yeah, we could close the evening with the Star Spangled Banner. Pick a genre of musical. See, because you know.
Ska.
Oh, that's tough. First, though, let me set this up by saying that Francis Scott Key was a one-hit wonder. You know, when it really comes right down to it, it's like, you know, what if the British had had the atom bomb during the War of 1812? It would be like, oh, say, can you... But no, I can't do ska. Like, that flag, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they fire at you? That flag, you know. Try another one. Another polka. Oh God, You're stumping me here. Put up the big flag. I don't wanna put the flag up 'cause British fire at me. Hey! You know. Try one more and I'll go. Musical genre.
Musical genre, let's see. How about this? Southern, something southern.
Southern.
Yeah, make it southern. Draw.
Broadway show tune?
That's one I was thinking of, actually.
Say, it sure is bright out. Gosh, that flag is grand. Glad it's not still night out. Let's strike up the band.
And I must go now. I'm the wrong hero, and thank you all very much.
Yay, hero.
You didn't do the bit about your real name is the wrong X, hero is your slave name.
No, that's, I didn't do that one.
I always liked that one.
I'm making my usual search through the Sunday papers, trying to find a job, and I noticed this ad. It says wanted, computer literate for new business, and so you know, it looked good. It was like there was some address off in Warwick, right near the airport. So I wrote him a letter. You know, it was short but to the point. Basically, it said, you know, I've had many years of computer experience. Well, actually, yeah, I've been working on computers since 1984, not consistently or constantly, but I copied down a list of the computers I worked on. I've used the Macintosh 3.1. I've used Tandy, UMI, ProQuest, Compaq, Hewlett-Packard, IBM Personal System 2, Model 55. You know, I've used all sorts of computers. And so I wrote him a letter saying I'm especially intrigued by the fact that this is a new business. Because, you know, I figured, well, if this guy's really desperate for someone that can write and use a computer and whatnot, then, well, probably just the guy. He probably can't afford to pay me much if it's a new business, but hey, you know, you got to start somewhere. So I answered this guy's letter, and he calls like on, I don't know, probably Wednesday night. He calls it in Providence and leaves a message. Well, actually talks to Marge, and Marge calls me at work and tells me this guy called. It was actually Thursday of last week, and so I didn't get home till like actually I left a little early so I'd be home by 11, so I could call this guy before 11:30, which is when he said he didn't want to be called after. So I called him up, and for half an hour he's got me on the phone, like explaining this this idea he has, but like, you know, it's all one continuous burst of talking. The guy, you can tell just from talking to him on the phone that this guy is like very eccentric, like
manic.
kind of. Well, like he's like, well, I'm not very. He's telling me all sorts of stuff that no interviewer should ever tell you. Like, you know, I'm not very educated or anything like that. I was very impressed by your credentials. Blah blah blah. This and that. And he has some idea about how he could offer legal services to people at low cost, even though he's not a lawyer. Like,
Has he ever heard of the charge practicing law without a license?
well, he has himself listed as pro se.
Pro se has to be the defendant in question. You argue your case yourself.
Well, he believes that the Rhode Island Constitution gives him a way out of that, but I'll go on to explain that a little later. He has this one great idea that he wants to offer, like legal insurance. Like if you ever get in a lawsuit, you're insured against it with his Layman's Legal Network Incorporated. He calls it a non-profit organization, not because it's chartered as a non-profit, incidentally, but because he doesn't make any money. So anyway, he's talking about this thing, you know. I want to start this thing where I can insure people. If I get just one big client, then I'll get the business off the road. I used to be in the ice cream business, but I had to get out of that, and I had to get into this. And it's like really weird, like, well, why? But he doesn't say why, at least not on the phone. So he's he's got this non-stop stream of patter, and he's saying, well, it'll just take 5 hours on the computer, and we'll get the list together, and this and that. And he wants to set up an interview, and I figure, oh, why the hell not? This doesn't sound very promising to me, but I might as well at least go to the interview, get some interviewing practice, you know, get some practice being interviewed. And you know, I was going to call it off on Monday morning. I was supposed to meet him at like noon on Monday, and But I didn't, because I talked to Marge's father, and he said, well, what do you have to lose? You know, you might as well go out there and see what he has to say. So I go out there. It's near the airport. It takes about 15 minutes to get there. I'm a little early. And I get there like about maybe 10 minutes to 12. And his office is in this it's in this building, and there's a photocopy place, Technoprint or something like that. And I walk into the Technoprint place looking for this guy's office. It's like, and they say, oh, you want the lawyer? Oh, he's next door. This dingy little, I can't even describe it. It's sort of like an office, but basically it's about the size of his kitchen. And there's a bathroom off to the side. And he's got cartons stacked up all over the place. Over the phone, he had told me that, you know, he had to move out of his office because the lawyers were persecuting him. And
Persecuting?
yes. And so I get in there, and you know, hardly a moment after I managed to sit down, in walks this guy, wants him to handle a divorce case for him. And you know, he's got this big sheaf of legal papers, and he like plops it down in front of him and says, you know, you were supposed to do something about this 6 weeks ago. What's going on here? And all these people are calling him on the phone during the entire interview. And it's like, I can see right now that this is like, this guy is obviously somebody who ministers to lost souls, people who are too cheap or too broke to like get a real lawyer, so they get this guy who knows a little something about law. Well, as it turns out, he's got somebody to work on a computer for him. His bright idea is to pepper the Providence Journal Bulletin with all of these letters to the editor, and so he needs someone who can write press releases. So I'm sort of playing along. I say, I'll tell you what, I'll write a press release for you right now. So he tells me the story of this lawyer in East Greenwich, Rhode Island. What happened was, it was St. Patrick's Day, and he had celebrated. He went to this bar.
You just get a rolled up newspaper and whack it.
No, not that. I mean, what was I in this narrative? Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. He ministers to lost souls. All sorts of things started coming out in the course of this interview. It was fascinating. Oh, yeah, I wrote this press release for him. There was this lawyer down in West Greenwich, East Greenwich, Rhode Island, he went to a bar, and he went to another bar, and he wouldn't serve him. And he says it's because he got into an argument with somebody else over the use of the telephone. But apparently it was because he was too drunk and they didn't want to be liable. So he leaves the bar, he gets in his car, he drives off, and he hits something. He thinks it's a deer. He drives home. He goes to bed. He wakes up the next morning. He has a friend of his go over to the scene of the accident to see what it was. The friend finds the body of a 15-year-old boy.
You're kidding.
And now the friend doesn't call 911, he doesn't call an ambulance, he doesn't call the police. He drives 20 minutes back to the guy's house, tells him what happened, and then the guy calls a criminal lawyer. The criminal lawyer calls the police, tells him what happened. This guy, you know, he goes to trial, and he gets 5 years instead of 20 years, because he's not charged with manslaughter. He's charged with leaving the scene of an accident, fatality resulting. And he's out on work release now. And the thing is, now here's the capper to this story. The guy is a lawyer. The guy is himself a lawyer.
Yes.
So he gets off with, like, you know, some penny ante sentence, instead of like getting charged with driving while intoxicated and manslaughter. He gets leaving the scene of an accident. So this guy wants me to write a press release for him based on this, which I do. You know, it's really simple.
I wouldn't sign my name to it.
Oh, I didn't sign anything. Don't worry. The guy still doesn't know I'm not going to work for him, by the way. I told him I'd call him Monday and let him know after I talked it over. And then he manages to get me to write another press release for him. This one is about Governor Bruce Sunderland, who closed all the banks on January 1st, 1991. He declared a bank holiday, even though none of the banks in Rhode Island were insolvent. He closed down 145 banks and credit unions. And so this guy's suing him for a number of reasons. he's taking him to court. Oh, he even gave me a copy of, I got page 1 of this document that he wanted me to write a précis and turn into a press release, which I was able to do in 20 minutes. So I write these 2 press releases for him, and all the while, his clients are coming in and out, and I should describe what he looks like. He's sort of like one of those 50-ish kind of guys, kind of, pudgy. But
You've been in the ice cream business.
yeah, I told you that, didn't I? And he was wearing a pair of pants.
Is he wearing a shirt?
Yeah, a white shirt with like little blue pinstripes. Looked just like an ice cream man shirt, actually. And he was wearing a pair of red suspenders with a black stripe down the middle of them. And his collar was unbuttoned down to the second or third button.
To reveal a mighty hairy chest?
No, it wasn't that hairy, but you can tell he had, he was a bit hairy. He's an Italian guy, what can I say? I'm not going to give his name for obvious reasons. And he says, yeah, I used to be in the ice cream business. I knew everything about it. I loved it more than my wife, if I had a wife. I'm not sure he did. But I had to leave it. And I told Margie about this, and she said, that name sounds familiar. Wasn't he that guy who molested those kids? She doesn't know for sure, but apparently there's something very fishy about this guy. And when I told the story to Margie's father, he said, oh, this guy sounds like a con man to me. I wouldn't have anything to do with him. And Margie pipes in with, yeah, you could ruin your reputation getting hooked up with a character like that. But, I write these press releases. He wants to hire me, but the problem is he doesn't have any money. He can't promise me that he'd be able to pay me, but he wants to know how much I charge for my services anyway. And then he starts saying stuff like, well, once I get this thing off the ground, I can offer you a salary, company car, health benefits, all this stuff. And then he starts, then he starts grilling me, like, you went to Harvard, blah, 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 you're working in a library. Can I ask how much money you make? Which I somehow managed to avoid telling him. But he got a pretty good idea that it wasn't any more than about $20,000 a year. Which of course is far less than I actually make since I work part-time. But he's like getting on and on, like, well, library work doesn't pay very well. I know somebody that ran a library and he didn't make much money, and a guy like you, blah, 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 blah. And it's like I'm there for 2.5 hours between running the press releases, getting interrupted about 5 or 6 times, both by clients and people on the phone. He's always saying to these clients, I'll do what I can for you. I'll try to get it done by Friday. This is Monday. And then he says it in an aside to me. This guy, he never paid me a penny. And they're the worst kind. He was standing there for like 20 minutes waiting to talk to this guy. And finally, the client lost all patience and just walked right in there and slapped this thing down in his face. Like, this guy's got a screw loose, and his clients are like even crazier than he is. And so it's just fascinating, this fellow, and he's got this office, and God, it's like something out of a Graham Greene novel or something, The Whiskey Priest in South America or something. In this dingy little office.
Well, it sounds like the Attorney General's got to shut him down before too long.
Well, I don't know, because then, here's the beautiful part. He shows me a copy of the Rhode Island Constitution. He says, read Section 5. Read it twice. Make sure you understand it. And Section 5 says basically that people have a right to legal representation. That right shall not be abridged. And it all comes down to this one word, which he interprets to mean that lawyers have no right to be paid for their services, according to the Rhode Island Constitution. And this guy's got like what they call a fixed idea in his head about lawyers. And what I'm saying? Do you have a law degree? And he's like, no, I just went to Cranston High. And a lot of people I went to high school with, they weren't any smarter than me. They got law degrees. Some of them were just downright stupid. You don't have to be very smart to be a lawyer. And all this stuff. I get the vague impression that he had a community college degree or something, or he went to community college.
But never got the degree.
Never got the degree, and then he was like studying law, and he's got all these, and his clients, they're like Rush Limbaugh listeners. They're like, this country's going straight down the tubes. And they're saying stuff like this, And so the first guy who walked in said, once they have your social security number, this is the age of computers, they can check everything about you. Well, they can even tell if your young friend here has a criminal record. And he walks out. So, it's like, whoa. Just an amazing day. I know. So now I got to call this guy on Monday and tell him that I can't go to work for him, and I thank him very much for his interest.
Well, he may be the sort of person who doesn't take no. We'll make you an offer you can't refuse.
Well, okay, $20,000 up front.
That isn't what I mean.
Oh no, what can you do? He doesn't have anything on me. He kept saying, I got another applicant here from Harvard as well. And you know, this sounds exactly like the same scam that somebody pulled on me when I was selling encyclopedias door to door. It's like to motivate me, to get my competitive instincts up. And when I was selling encyclopedias, this guy said, we have this kid here from Yale. He was going to Yale, you know, and he was going to go to Yale, and he sold 3 encyclopedias in 3 days, and he quit. And he made $2,100. You know, it's like, you know, white face.
Encyclopedias cost that much? You get $700 per set in commission?
No, you get $900, and the commission is something like $500 or something.
Really?
Yeah. Well, back then, this is 1975. It wasn't the Britannica, it was the Encyclopedia Americana, or something like that.
So you get $900 for a second-rate encyclopedia?
Yeah, and oh, that's another story. When I was 17 and living at the YMCA, I was looking for a job because I couldn't get my old job back because when I was working at this place called the Katzenjammer House, it was like this fast food joint. And it had pictures of the Katzenjammer kids all over the walls and stuff. So like 60s pop art. And this is like, what, 1973 or something? And I had worked there the summer before, but I couldn't get I got fired because I got this old hamburger that somebody had left there, and I threw it over a railing and hit a girl on the head. And the security guard was standing right there and came running up saying, who threw that? Who threw that? And I denied it. So they reported it, and it came out that I had done it. And
there are eyewitnesses right there?
Well, I don't know how they knew for sure it was me. I guess they figured I was the only logical culprit. So anyway, and I remember the name of the guy, my boss was named Mr. Elwell. And I never forgot his name. So I went back, I was having a hard time finding a job. And so I went back to him and asked him if he'd hire me, and he said no. So I said, well, I better do something, I don't want to work at McDonald's. So I answered this ad to sell encyclopedias, and my father said, oh, that's a scam, don't do that. You're just going to be wasting your time. But I figured, hey, what the hell? It was right next to where I was living, basically, right across the street. So I went in there, got interviewed. They sent me out, and then they give you these burned over districts, places that salespeople have canvassed 2 or 3 times before and failed to come up with any leads. I guess they figure if you can sell these people, you can sell anybody.
That's cool.
I know, and you know who these people were? They were unemployed steel workers. People who were barely keeping body and soul together with like 2 and 3 part-time jobs, Like people who had these crushing mortgages on their houses, and I'm trying to sell them a $900 encyclopedia. And, I almost got a couple of sales. They tell you, and when you try to go out and sell these things, they tell you that if you make 30 or 40 presentations a month, you'll be given a salary, equivalent roughly to say $5 an hour or something. Yeah. But the problem is, if you don't sell any in the first 3 or 4 days, they don't let you make any presentations. They send you out with another worker, and they make you watch him. And you wouldn't believe some of the things that this guy that they sent me out with was doing. He was the crew leader. He was like giving this rap, you're supposed to memorize this 20-minute spiel. Like, the Encyclopedia Britannica, you're not supposed to refer to it as an encyclopedia. You're supposed to call it reference materials. And you get it and you go, see how sturdy these reference materials are? And they actually had a guy from the company come in to listen to our spiel. And so I gave the spiel, and I went, see how sturdy our reference materials are? But I didn't grasp it by 3 pages. I grasped it by 1, so it tore, which was actually quite a debacle. And well, anyway, you wouldn't believe this what this guy was doing, trying to sell these encyclopedias. I learned a lot from him, actually, incidentally. Like, this guy was working on his car outside, And he says, oh, that's a nice car. I got one just like it. Blah, 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 this and that. And then he lures the guy in the house, and he sits him and his wife down. And they've got this 6-month-old infant or something who's like gurgling on the rug, which is none too clean. And we hit every little boondock small town in Pennsylvania, it seems, trying to hawk these dubious encyclopedias. And he's like, you know, he gives us 20-minute spiel. It's a complete cradle-to-grave educational system. And at the end of it, the guy says, well, no, I don't think we're interested. And then the guy turns on him, the crew leader, and he says, yeah, well, you know, that kid of yours doesn't look any too bright. I don't see a very good future ahead for him. And he storms out of there. No, he actually said this.
That kid of yours is not too bright.
I know.
That insult to injury.
Yeah, I mean, not only does he waste this fella's time, but there were so many paranoid people out there, even in 1973. Like, who are you? I'm going to call the police if you don't get away from here.
Encyclopedia salesman. No wonder they have such a bad reputation.
Well, I don't know. I mean, to sell one of those things, it's sort of like selling a house or a car, but with none of the advantages. Because car salesmen, you know, at least they're selling you something that you actually really need, and you can develop a business relationship with your client. Like, even though car repair shops, like 3 out of every $5 that's spent in a car dealership apparently is spent on repairs. Like people buying repairs from the dealership. $2 is selling cars, $3 is repairing the junk cars that you sell people. I can't cite my source for that, but it sticks in my mind. So, and with the home mortgage, you know, with a guy that's selling you a house, I mean, he's definitely going to be a part of your life for the next 20 years or so. But you know, these are all big ticket items. You know, they skim like a big chunk, but it's a set percentage, right? They very seldom make more than, say, 20% on a car or 10% on a house when they sell it. Their commission is like practically fixed, and you can bargain them down. But with these encyclopedias, forget it. The commission is insane. It's like 30% or something. And that tends to be the case for most door-to-door canvassers. Whether they're raising money for a political or, you know, any sort of thing like that. Like Greenpeace, well, not Greenpeace, but you know what I mean, Mass Purge. You know how much money those people make? Like if they manage to get you to write a $100 check, they get 40 bucks of it. They get 33 bucks of it. And if they make anything over 100, they get 40%. So 60% goes to Mass Purge, 40% goes right in their pockets. So that's something to keep in mind next time you give money to somebody who's going door to door trying to raise money for some political thing. Now people who are soliciting for political candidates, obviously there's not anything in it for them except, you know, boosting the candidacy. They're not asking for money. And if you donate a check to their cause, they don't get a set commission out of it. But people who go door to door for these things like Mass Purge and stuff like that, and there's other ones too.
I can imagine.
You know what we used to do? You know what we used to do when I was doing the mass nuclear referendum? They'd say, well, you know, I was going to give the money to Mass Purge, and I'd say, well, this is a one-time thing. Give the money to us. You can give them money anytime. Also, you know, you get really unscrupulous when it comes to making that $100 quota, so you can, like, skip 40% instead of 33. It's like, you'll do anything. You get a really fast education, like how to win friends and influence people. Like you see some old lady tending her flower garden, you say, those are very nice flowers, daylilies, I believe. And she's delighted, you know. It's like nobody ever praises her about her garden. She'll drone on and on for 10 minutes about her garden. Then you hit her up for the donation. And she feels a little bit guilty because you were so nice, so she gives you like 10 bucks. And you know what's really weird? Rich people don't, their purse strings are very tight. They can well afford to give you 20 bucks, but they won't. But poor people, you can hit 50 suburban homes, and you're lucky if you get two $20 donations. You can hit 50 like lower middle class homes or lower class homes, and they'll each give you $1. It's harder work. You got to talk to 50 people, and it's like $1 and $2 at a pop. But you know, it's just so weird that almost all of them will give you something. The worst day we ever had was we went to Plymouth, Massachusetts in the summer, And everybody there was like from out of state. There was like their summer residents. They had no interest in this. This is like an in-state thing. And I made like $4. And I was really furiously angry at the people who were putting this thing together. Because I told them, you're not going to get anybody to give money to Plymouth, in Plymouth. They thought it would be a hot territory because the nuclear power plant's right there. But they're all into denial. Or they all work for the damn nuclear power industry. They're not going to do anything to undercut it. That's why I learned one of the most valuable lessons, that people will never hold any beliefs which run contrary to, like, you know, what their jobs are. Like, you know, if you're in the military, you're just not going to want to hear anybody protesting the war, whether they're right or wrong, whether you know they're right or wrong. You know, you can always say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. You know, regardless of whether it's right or wrong. That's an ad hominem attack, of course. It has no basis in a truly informed debate. So getting back to the layman's legal network. Well, there's not much more to tell.
It sounds like you ran into a complete fraud and slightly manic individual who doesn't realize how stupid he is.
You wouldn't believe some of the things he was saying. It's just incredible. Like, I hardly got a word in edgewise. And half the time, you know, he was like citing these things. He didn't even know what the Sherman Antitrust Act was.
Well, that's federal law. You can imagine where he wouldn't know that. But if he's citing constitutional provisions, surely he realizes that these have all been interpreted by Rhode Island Supreme Court. And what's truly important is the interpretation of it over the course of time and what the very fine points of law are.
He kept on citing this statistic. He said 46.8% of all legislators in Congress are lawyers, as though it had some arcane significance or something. Well, of course they're lawyers. They're legislators. They pass laws. 46.8% is the lowest it's been in years. You know, time was when 9/10 of them were lawyers of some kind or another, or at least had some sort of legal background. You know that George Wallace, like, he got his law degree in like a year.
Wallace?
Yeah, he was a whiz kid, you know. I don't even think he didn't have any money. He was living off of his pal worked in a restaurant during the Depression, and he would bring him all this scrap food that was left over, but nobody would leave any meat on his plate. All he was eating was like asparagus stalks and stuff like that. He was starting to get weak from hunger. He had to do all sorts of scams just to get through, you know, his 1 year of law school. And it was make or break. He had to pass the bar exam. And he did it. And did you see that magazine, George?
I've seen the hype on it.
Go to the Kennedy School. They have a copy of it.
I'm trying to buy it at the newsstand.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it might be. I'm not sure it's worth buying. Maybe you should just. Well, I'm not sure. Time will tell. Of course, the first issue was a collector's item. And it just.
What I object to is their stupid cover. I mean, having, what's her name? Who's the model?
Cindy Crawford?
Cindy Crawford. And then she appears in this big spread. She appears, I think, 2 other times in the magazine and advertising.
I know, it's amazing. It's just a boutique magazine. It's like Vanity Fair without any of the really good writers. They have a couple of good writers, though. They have Chris Matthews, who wrote Hardball.
Chris Matthews?
Yeah. He's a honcho now.
Where is he from?
I don't know. Maybe we went to school with him. You know, I think the best job I ever had was, I think I was about 14 or 15, and I had a job for 3 days distributing samples of Folgers coffee.
Oh, that would be a good job.
Yeah, it was a great job. It paid like, for those days, it was the most I'd ever made. I made like $50 clear in 3 days, and this is like back in 1972. It was like, you know, the equivalent of close to $60 or $70 a day, and it was great, but it was kind of frightening too. Again, we went to all these like really small towns with names like Harmony and Wilmerding. They all looked like they were out of the 50s. Like nothing had changed since 1959. Like, you know those little stores that you go by, those little groceries, and they all smell like 1959? These towns look like the way those stores smell. But it's amazing. It's like people would get mad if you put it on their mailboxes. But if you came to the door and just handed it to them, they didn't mind. And one woman was so greedy that she grabbed about 15 of these little sample cans of Folgers coffee. So but she couldn't even move without dropping him.
She was greedy.
Yes, indeed.
Will you excuse me, sir?
May 23rd, 1996. You know, people always seem to only do things so that eventually down the road they will in fact be able to impress their grandchildren. That seems to be the purported aim of many people who actually end up doing something of consequence with their lives. They and sometimes if they undergo great disasters, they might console themselves in the middle of it by saying, well, at least I'll have something to say to my grandchildren. Like, for example, right about now, it's the World War II generation who's entering their senectitude, and they have a lot of stories to tell to their grandchildren. And some of the stories they tell have to do with fighting the war, which was, of course, a big event in their young lives. And but I do have a tendency to notice that sometimes they get things a little bit balled up, like they might say something like, well, you know, some call it the last good war we ever fought. Well, when I was a-fighting it, single-handedly I might mention, it didn't seem so good to me. No, and always saying, you know, you remember stuff that they remember very well because they were 20 at the time, but which you don't remember because you were yet to be born for another 60 years. Like stuff like, well, I'm sure you remember the time in 1960 when the Steelers won the Super Bowl. Well, I guess they didn't have a Super Bowl back then, but if they did, then the Steelers would have won it. Yeah, I was fighting World War V, and there was Abraham Lincoln signing the Declaration of Independence, and George Washington was there, and he got his little axe, and he cut down some Indians, and it was really quite a, you know, I think the Redskins were there too, and the Steelers won, and it was World War II, and I was a sergeant, or maybe I was a lieutenant, and man and boy, I mean woman and girl, I never seen another thing like it in all my born days. And they're always using expressions that had a great deal of relevance to them back in their day, but which of course mean next to nothing to us these days because we're ignorant and uneducated. And, you know, like well, Sonny, now you're cooking with gas, and things like that, you know. Well, I wouldn't invest in amalgamated buggy whip if I was you, you know, and stuff like that. But as as bad as that is sometimes, as tedious as that is, and you know, you love your grandparents, and when they tell stories, you know, even if you're not very interested, you'll listen to them. Yeah, because actually you can learn a lot from them, obviously, and because they're you know, but you know, 50 years down the road, and so you listen to them. But what is our generation going to have to say to our grandchildren when we finally reach that 70-year mark? And you know, oh wow, yeah. Do you remember when the Dead were in Rochester, man? And Jerry did that 50-minute version of China Cat Sunflower. It was the last time you ever did it, and your grandma was pregnant with your dad at the time. I wouldn't worry too much though, because anyway, that was the last time Jerry ever did it. I'm glad she got pregnant just then. Wait a minute, there's the phone. Hold on, please. Please hold on. Hello? Hello? Yeah? Look, dude, I told you to stop calling me, man. I don't need this hassle from you. Okay? Alright. Then I'll talk to you later then. Bye. That was my probation officer. He wanted to know what I was up to. And you'd think after 50 years they'd finally leave you alone, man, but no. The dude's like about 115 years old, and he's still on my case because I didn't call in back in 1983 to tell him that I was going to Colombia on a vacation, you know, like there was nothing going on, there was nothing going on, and anyway, yeah. Yeah, so your grandma had your dad, and she was tripping, you know, but don't worry, because there was no strychnine in the acid, and the fact that you and your dad have 7 fingers on each foot have nothing to do with that, man. So don't let the kids at school tease you about it. Just tell them that means that you are a superiorly endowed evolutionary being, one of the new generation of laughing free men and avatars who are going to change the world someday. So, anyway, yeah, and if you got any more questions, you want to ask me, you just come on over anytime you want to, little Sonny, and bring some more of that stuff there you just gave me. That was good. I haven't had the likes of that since 1978. In fact, I feel positively peppy. What was in that stuff? Whoa! Hey, dude. Hey, listen, let's party, man, okay? Listen, you got any more of that stuff? Because I think we could have a really good time with that. So, anyway, I think you get the drift of my comments. I think you know what I'm getting at here. We're not, you know, I guess the whole 60s, 70s thing, that was our equivalent of World War II. It's not a very original sort of comment. I mean, a lot of folks have made the same comment, but nevertheless, like many banalities, now there is a great deal of so-called comedy to be milked from it. So, in any event, I will probably resume this at some point more congenial to my doing so. And goodbye now. Today is June 1st, and I just wanted to say a little bit more about you know, the stories that your grandparents tell you. I mean, it's easy enough to figure out what we're going to tell our grandchildren, but you know, sometimes they do tell interesting stories, your grandparents, but they always seem to have this sort of slight note of pathos, which is a little makes you kind of uncomfortable. And, you know, like well, you know, back in my day it was the Great Depression. When I was a kid, we used to put and then they'll like go go off on this tangent for about 10 minutes where they're trying to think of the next word instead of just saying this, using some pronoun or something. They just go on and on. Like, for example, it would be something like, yeah, I remember when Max Schmeling fought, what was his name again? And then they look at you like they expect you to know what his name was. Of course, it was Joe Louis. But they sort of, they'll just stop for 10 minutes and just so they can figure out the exact name, not realizing that you probably wouldn't even recognize the exact name, and you're not going to call them on it even if they don't give you the exact name. They could say something like, yeah, back when Max Schmeling fought General Pershing, but you're not going to say anything. They're your grandparents, you love them, but and that's the sort of an irritating thing that they do. But they tell you stories about the hardships of their youth, and they're fascinating and all, but they tend to follow a somewhat predictable pattern, like oh yeah, back during the Great, and then they'll just skip and jump. They'll jump from one thing to another without. They won't finish their sentence. They'll assume that you're on their wavelength to such a degree that you know exactly what they're going to say before they even say it. But of course you don't. But because there's like 40 years difference, and just think, you have trouble relating to somebody who's like 5 years older than you. Just imagine what it's like relating to somebody who's 50 years older than you. I mean, there's a big difference there. I mean, it was a different world. Of course, we'll be saying that 50 years from now. Yeah, I remember back when not everybody even had to have a computer, man. Back when teenagers used to use the drugs instead of having their clones do it for them, man. I remember all that stuff. You people today, you think you're so greater and stuff because you got them smart pills and your inhibitory forebrains are much bigger and your central cerebral cortexes have been surgically enhanced with and we'll do the same thing with what you call them things. Those are called bionic devices. Those are called cybernetic additions. Those are called, Of course, we can expect that our grandchildren will be these cold, emotionless robots who are half machines. Grandfather, your data is not making sense. Please shut down and reboot when you decide to make more sense. And of course, their slang will be riddled with computer references and the like, of course. But anyway, our grandparents, and they do the same thing that we can expect ourselves to do 50 years hence. And the response is the same that we can expect from our grandchildren many years hence. Sort of impatience and exasperation mingled with bemused tolerance. Yeah, back during the Great Depression, I used to put we didn't have any money, so we used to take the trolley, and they never explain these references to you, or if they do, they sort of explain them in a way that assumes that you're an idiot. Well, a trolley was sort of like a bus, except it ran on a track, and I know what a trolley is, Grandpa. But anyway, yeah, we didn't have the money for the fare. Well, how much was it now? Was it 2 cents, or was it 5 cents? I don't care, just to finish the story already. Well, we didn't have money for the fare, so we used to put an icicle in the fare box in the wintertime, of course, and I think sometimes the trolley driver knew that we were doing that, but he didn't say nothing, because it was hard times, and everybody was having a hard time in them days. And we used to go to the nuns, and for breakfast, they'd give us these stale donuts, and a donut is sort of like, I know what a donut is, Grandpa. Okay, and they were stale, but the nuns, God bless them, they meant well, and that's another thing. They're really into God, and they can't understand why you're not. It's because you haven't aged to the point where your brain is pumping out those God chemicals that impel you to worship a supreme being as you face your coming demise. There's just a lot of things that the older generation will never understand about the younger generation, and vice versa. But it really is remarkable. About the time you hit 40, you really start to figure things out that you haven't figured out before. And it's not even so much because you've spent 20 years thinking about it. It just sort of slowly dawns on you that, all the things you were told as a child aren't strictly true. They're only true insofar as they enable children to not come to some sort of harm, because In other words, they're sort of black and white versions of the shades of gray. For example, the policeman is your friend. Well, yeah, if you're a kid, he's your friend, sure. But once you hit about the age of 9 and you're old enough to cause mischief, the policeman is in fact your adversary if you're a certain type of mischievous boy. And you start to figure these things out. Actually, a lot of people figure them out by the time they're 16 or 18. But then there's this long dormant period in your late 20s and throughout your 30s where, you pretty much stay out of trouble. You don't have to worry about that sort of stuff. And so, you can sort of enjoy all the things adults enjoy. And then just when you've had about 15 years of like carrying on, all of a sudden the big 40 comes and you start thinking, wow, this is the childhood of old age. No, it's the old age of childhood. And in another 10 years I'll be entering the childhood of old age. And wow, if I don't get anything done in my 40s, I'm not going to get anything done at all. And why haven't I gotten anything done by now? I better get cracking. But of course, all the other 40-year-olds are thinking the same thing. So there's this immense competition. And what can you do about it? Nothing really, except ponder about what you're going to tell your grandchildren. Well, back when I was 30 years old, I used to vote. It's not an awful lot. If you haven't had a particularly interesting life, well, man, we used to like party out, man, you know what I mean? Of course you do. No, grandfather, I cannot comprehend your utilization of this noun, party, as a verb. Kindly elucidate. You damn kids ought to loosen up, you're just too damn serious all the time. Well, I guess there'll be more at some future juncture on this topic, but until then, I will say goodbye for now.
Ladies and gentlemen, Francis DiMenno.
Thank you for that warm welcome. I wish Dawn all the best of luck because I know something that maybe a lot of you fellows aren't aware of, and that's Caroline has a dog. And the dog has its own language. When in the morning, at like 6 in the morning, you hear this outside the door. And then you hear, so I'd like to advise Dawn to get used to that. Now, I know he's a travel agent. It sounds like a Lost in Space episode where the soundtrack got a little out of hand. Dr. Smith, Danger Robinson. Don's a travel agent. I've never really been in a foreign country unless you count Georgia. And that's why I got this hat. I used to go to Disneyland with this hat and do anything I wanted. There's like a, take over here, I'm the king of the anthropomorphic animals. One thing I noticed about Southerners, though, is that every time Southerners get mad at you, they talk like they're taking a shit. No, it's like a, what you doing around here, big boy? We're gonna get this thing out of here. I'm gonna get you. It's just amazing. Now, the guy was up here before. He told a joke about a parrot. I love parrot jokes. One time there was this guy, this priest, and he had this parrot that swore a lot. So he figured he'd get a pet owl and sort of give the parrot a good example, so it wouldn't swear so much. So one night, the parrot used to be in a whorehouse, you see, that's why it swore so much. And one night the owl was going, one night the parrot was going, somebody's going to get screwed, somebody's going to get screwed. And the owl went, whoo, whoo. And the parrot went, not you, you flat-faced son of a bitch. So assholes. Now, on the way over here, I was thinking, you know, everything is coming my way. That's because I was driving on the wrong side of the Mass Turnpike. It was like a zoom. Einstein was in the passenger seat. This bears out my theory of human relativity. Well, you know, I got stopped by the police on the way over here, so I'm starting a little late. And every time I get stopped by a cop, I like to play a nice little game called Nice Victim, Mean Victim. Why, top of the morning to you, officer. Surely what's a police captain like you would do on a pound in the beat? Why was I going so fast? I was sucking on a cube of LSD, and I wanted to get home before I melted. Officer, caught me and done sitting and bending your ass in the dark and dawn at 4 in the morning. Sir? And he said, well, we'll let it go this time. See, it doesn't happen again. I've been trying to find a job, wrote my resume. This is my resume, do you hear me? Mine. Get your filthy hands off it, you greasy little man. So I haven't had much luck with the job search. Maybe it's the cover letter. Dear Personnel Director, suck my drug-laced nipples, earth filth. With socialist greetings, the wrong hero. Well, you know, everybody's got to have a job in their civilian identity, and I've been going on all these job interviews, and they always ask you these really, the same dumb, pointless, inane questions. Hey, I lost my hat. All right. You're seeing me bareheaded? Like they ask you, name 2 of your former boss's biggest weaknesses. And I say, oh, that's easy. Throat and kneecap. And they say, why have you been out of work so long? And I say, I don't know, ask my probation officer about that. Do you work with computers? Yeah, I sure do. We just got them. Now I can fuck things up at the speed of light, you know? It's cool. Well, you have any questions for us?
What does hegemony mean?
Hegemony, I'm not sure. I didn't look it up. Too bad, man. Sorry. I'm getting to that, though.
Flummox. What does flummox mean?
It means to confuse, baffle, or otherwise bewilder.
Good.
Which is what you're trying to do to me. Ironic, you know. You got any questions for us? They asked you at the job interview. Yes, when can I start killing the peasants, Mr. Big Whip? How long do I have to work here before I can collect disability and go on unemployment? 6 months? 3 months? And they say, you have any skills? And I say, yeah, I can suck a tennis ball through a garden hose, and I can piss like a racehorse. How about you? And then they say, always the same question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Oh, that's easy. And I see me in a stretch limo driven by Al Collins, and I see you standing on a street corner, your filthy coat covered with snot and vomit, peddling watchtowers to peace officers, shaking your fist at me and calling me a filthy monkey, while I leave you in a cloud of my diesel dust. Well, I think it's just about time to introduce the band right now. They're called Rootlock, and there's some fine boys, and I think you'll enjoy their presentation. So here they are, Rootlock.
Thank you, Imperial Smiles.
Rolling out of here on Sunday under electric sky. Nothing's left but what was inside, and the way bye-bye.
That was Root Rock, No Afterlife. You have been tuned to Cafe Cabaret, featuring the wrong hero. In